All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I am Chris.
My name's Cameron.
And this is SolarEdge Night Mode, your after-hours happy hour for solar enthusiasts and solar geeks, just like you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we started doing this podcast because Chris and I like to talk a lot about solar, and it's been crazy just how far we've come.
Yeah.
And 11 episodes already in. I'm excited to be here.
I'm absolutely excited to be here. And that's like all just people popping in to watch us. We haven't really done any big PR pushes yet just because we wanted to get a few episodes under our belt. So it's great to have all of you folks rejoining us, sending us emails. In particular, I wanted to say thank you to Nick and Amanda who emailed after the last episode just to see how I was doing. Obviously, I was a little bit under the weather with the convention crud after coming back from RA+, and I was down for about a week. So thank you for your well wishes. Nick, I am sorry that you had the same thing that I did. It was not a fun experience, but thank you very much. That's really, really cool of you to reach out.
So cheers. Wait, cheers. First, what are you drinking?
So we went on a little adventure last week. It was your birthday.
We celebrated my birthday, albeit a little bit later than when it is, but I'm a busy person, and I am truly thankful for you taking me out for my birthday last week.
Yeah, it's great to have friends and get the family and the kids out and have some pizza and some frosty beverages. It was great.
Absolutely. So we went to this place called Dark Heart Brewery, and it's a local brewery, pirate-themed brewery here in Roseville.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that beer so much that I got a 6-pack to go, and I thought we could share it with everyone here today.
Right on. Very cool. So today I have see if I can pop this up here, the O'Malley Red, which actually... if you look at my glass here, I did not use my NASA stun because I wanted to see this beautiful color here. Really, really nice, good flavor, nice and spicy. A lot of caramel, a lot of malty flavors. It's really enjoyable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I went with the Dark Heart Pirate Fest. And the reason I went with the Pirate Fest is because it is Oktoberfest season, and this is their take on Oktoberfest. So just like any other Oktoberfest beer you would have, you expect those kind of malty, good mouthfeel, biscuit, buttery, and then a little bit of spice at the end with the crisp cutoff. So that is exactly what this beer embodies, and it is a fantastic beer. So cheers. And I've already had this beer, and I have zero regrets about having it again.
I believe I went home with a growler of this last week.
Of the O'Malley Red, yeah.
Absolutely. And we should say, if you are going to be enjoying frosty beverages, please do so responsibly. And our wives are going to be picking us up later.
Yeah.
I believe they're on a pumpkin train this week, right?
Yeah, I guess it is technically spooky season now.
Yeah, it is.
We're in October.
And
so they're out there at the pumpkin patch doing a little train ride.
Right on. I noticed that in the background there, you've got your... Legos out, your Halloween Legos.
Yeah, I got my little Michael Myers pop figure Lego guy. This is my Halloween decorations. I decorate with Lego because why not?
And I see that you put on some solar panels that we got from RA+.
Yeah, some of those solar panels. I think we showed them last time, so I'm not going to bore people with it too much. But yeah, I got my solar panel Lego, and then also the SolarEdge Nexus battery bank and battery solution Lego as well. So I got some good solar Lego on my Halloween decorations.
Very cool. And so, our wives are picking up some pumpkins this week. And they're going to be like getting them early so they can get ahead of the carve.
Yep. Stop. My wife likes to do the thing that there's a certain demographic of people that do this one thing, which is you get the biggest pumpkin you can find, and then you carve it open and put your kids in and set your kids inside the pumpkin and take pictures. So we will have things that we can embarrass them with when they get older.
Oh, that's perfect. That's great for like when they're graduating high school many years later.
Here's you sitting 100%. In a pumpkin.
I love that you plan ahead as a father. I think that is excellent. Do you know how they keep the pumpkins safe at the pumpkin patch at night?
No. How?
They hire gourd dogs.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off right there.
Okay. Lots of stuff has happened in the news lately. Some really, really exciting stuff. Obviously, it's baseball season. It's October.
Yep.
So postseason, of course. No spoilers in the chat, please. I'm going to be watching the game after I get home tonight.
I stopped watching when my D-backs were eliminated. So Yeah, I'm done watching baseball.
I may be after tonight. We'll see.
Good luck for you. I hope
Fingers
the
crossed.
Yankees make it just for you.
I know I've got at least one person out there watching who is a big Red Sox fan, and fellow Chris.
No.
All right. Let's see here. Other than that, some big news. Sodium. So we've got sodium lithium ion.
Yep. Sodium batteries are making
Sodium
a big
batteries.
splash.
Absolutely.
So NFPP, I think, is what they're being called. We talked a little bit about cattle and their Naxtra battery, which is a sodium battery, and historically in the past, like sodium batteries just didn't have a big enough energy density. They were really cool because it's easy to find materials and no rare earth metals and very, fireproof, if you will, if you want to say that. But they never had the energy density, which means you needed a lot of space to put these sodium batteries, and the space was the constraint. But cattle made a pretty big breakthrough, and I think you were telling me something about Peak Energy.
Peak Energy. They just rolled out their first grid scale battery here in the U.S. out in Denver, Colorado, and it's this big, like size of a big rig size battery. And they also have a system that they put in Germany that they're rolling out and doing some testing on. So really, really exciting news on that front. I think you can find more in, I believe, PV Magazine. I have to look at my show notes here.
That's interesting because, I remember I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I remember when it was the first 100 kilowatt system ever was commissioned, and then it was the first 500 kilowatt or half meg, and then multi-megawatts, and then gigawatts. And so I love the fact that the scales just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're making these really safe batteries that are being deployed on a utility scale because the need for energy is ever more present with AI farms and server farms and just everything that we're doing for these digital assets and EVs and electrification of the grid. So all of those things are going to play a huge impact on grid stability, and having these deployable assets around the grid is going to be critical for that.
Oh, wonderful! I am really a big fan of distributed energy systems and not having single points of failure. Having a bunch of people that can contribute back to the grid when we've got these big power shutdowns or these gray outs or brownouts. It depends, but it's really, really good to see that. And that was April over at Energy Storage News. It wrote the article about Peak Energy. And another article, if you wanted to check it out, Ryan over at PV Magazine said that energy storage is really huge right now. 63% growth in the utility scale market as far as energy storage goes.
Okay.
And 132% growth in the residential market.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah, if you are investing, energy storage is definitely where you want to be doing that. And actually have Mark from Australia. He says, I have 3 batteries recently installed, and I still would like some further education. 100%. We are going to be talking a lot about batteries, specifically as we get into the new Nexus solution that will be released, the SolarEdge Nexus solution.
Yeah, so we did a kind of an introduction to the SolarEdge Nexus solution, and that's our next generation battery. We did that a couple of weeks ago before RE Plus, I guess it was a month ago now. And when it's one of our most well-liked videos, which is fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for that. That came to that.
Yeah.
But as far as the residential growth, what we're seeing is kind of twofold. One, we see a lot more grid instability because of energy shift and climate change.
Yeah.
Storms are getting more violent, and power is dropping from the utility. Whether the cold months are getting colder, the hot months are getting hotter, there's more flooding. Those are causing people to be concerned about resiliency and being able to protect their largest asset. And then additionally, for grid stability, we're seeing a lot of programs of virtual power plants. And if we think about how long it takes to build a utility scale system versus a nuclear power plant versus a natural gas power plant, all these have different levels of safety regulation and time to put into place. Interestingly, if we have 1 million homes in California that all have battery systems attached to them, you have a virtual power plant. You can tell all these batteries to start discharging. And SolarEdge has a lot of virtual power plant programs. So if you're interested in, a lot of utilities will pay you for this capability. And so if you're interested, you can always go to SolarEdge's landing page on virtual power plants and see if you're in a utility that you can enroll in that program if you have batteries, or maybe you can talk to your installer about putting batteries on your house to start taking advantage of some of those programs.
Yeah, I was recently making some edits to that page at solaredge.com/US/incentives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you can just look yourself up by state, whether you're a homeowner or an installer, and find information there. I think the one big major factor that I'm seeing a lot more these days, as far as why people are installing batteries, is frankly just grid rates. It is really, really expensive in certain jurisdictions for electricity bills. My parents are paying like $700 a month.
700?
We recently talked to another person, and it's a house full of young guys that all have gaming computers, and they're paying like $1,000 a month at their house for like everything that they're doing.
That 1,200-watt power supply seemed like a good idea at the time.
I'm just really glad that I moved into a jurisdiction in SMUD territory where it's been just wonderful. I've got, like, all summer long, I had penguins running around the house complaining about how cold it was, and I never saw a utility bill over $200, which was fantastic for me. But yeah, utility rates, one of the biggest factors in people getting batteries.
Yeah.
It really does affect your return on investment. It's really the only way to get a good return on investment these days, because you can take that from like a 12-year return on investment down to like a 6-year with 2 batteries.
Right.
In fact, the more batteries you have, because rates are so expensive, the quicker your return on investment is going to be, which is really strange. But
interesting. So then lastly, I think one of the biggest announcements for the news update, the weekly update, if you will, the news update that we have is regarding single SKU.
Yeah.
And so do you know what SKU stands for?
Yeah, so it's an inventory stocking
inventory unit.
Yeah. But basically it's a way to track your inventory, and just SolarEdge has had a number of different inverters, and different models of inverters had different SKUs. So, there were inverters with RGMs, and there were home wave inverters, and there were home hub inverters, and all the different sizes for each of them.
With cell cards, without cell cards.
And now we're moving to a model where there's just one inverter that you can get. And that's really, really going to help things on the inventory control side of things. What's really, really exciting about that is, I can't tell you the number of times I've talked with an installer who's gone out to site with the wrong loadout in his van. Yeah. And so he had to drive back to the warehouse, swap out the inverter because somebody loaded him up with the wrong inverter before he went out to site. So now you've got one inverter where you can just kind of program whatever power class you want on it.
Yeah.
And you're good to go.
It's so flexible and so much easier to manage, not only from a manufacturer's perspective, so SolarEdge, now we only make one inverter to be deployed in the US, right? But additionally, now it's one inverter for distributors to stock. It's one inverter for customers to handle. It's one inverter for the homeowner to get. So it's all just one inverter that kind of rules them all, really. And then you just program it on site with a special label. And from a certification standpoint, this is not a new thing.
Yeah.
There's other vendors that have been doing this before in the past. And what I've learned, because I sit again on a lot of those code making panels and compliance working groups, task groups, what we've learned is a lot of utilities like that really permanent method of identifying what the inverter is. Yeah. And so you can say, okay, this 11.4 kilowatt inverter is actually going to be a 3.8 kilowatt inverter. And SolarEdge's method is we put a label on it. And so the installer has an envelope of labels. They label the inverter. We ask them a couple times, are you sure you want to do this? This is different than what other people do. Yeah. Some people have a checkbox and you use your permanent marker to check it off. But even in other industries, like your HVAC industry, very common to see a single label that covers a wide range of products, and they use a hole puncher and hole punch whichever label that they're going to, or model that they're going to use. So it's really cool to see SolarEdge taking the initiative here and saying, nope, this helps everyone along the product chain, like everyone involved. And so we're going to have a single SKU inverter, and it's really awesome to see that.
Yeah, so if you are an installer, what you're going to see is this. You're going to go to site. You're going to have a label already applied to it with all your compliance information on it. It's an 11.4 label. If you want to change your power class, you just apply a different label to the top of that label. I'll have a video out on YouTube here in the next week or so. But you basically apply a label to the top, and then you'll scan the QR code on there, and that will verify that you've got the right power class when you go to select it. If it sees a mismatch, it will tell you to apply a different label based on what you want to do. So there's multiple ways that they go through to verify that you've got the right installation and the right power class set up going. And once that's done, it is locked.
Yeah.
It is set. You cannot change it. The only way that you could possibly change it is getting communications up on the inverter, talking to SolarEdge support, having them verify that the new label has been properly applied, making sure that you verify it. There's several steps that they have to go through to verify it. But that means that, like, somewhere down the road, like if somebody's got, a 10K inverter, they can't just magically switch it to an 11.4.
Right.
It's going to be set so that you don't have to worry about melting conductors or popping breakers or anything like that.
So Mark on the chat brought up an interesting point about floods.
Yeah.
And so I know I'm going to take us off on a little tangent.
That's fine.
But I appreciate the comment, Mark. So Mark was looking for some strategies to help waterproof his batteries in the events of flood, because we were talking about like extreme weather and flooding and stuff like that. So the current generation of SolarEdge battery, what we call for North America, we call the SolarEdge residential battery. I think it is the same battery we use in Australia. I'd have to double check. But that battery is designed to be wall mounted. So certainly you can mount it on a wall. You don't have to put it on the floor, and you can get above those kind of flood plains, those flood zones. But he had a great idea of putting like a canvas bag around the bottom of it so the battery can still keep cooled and hopefully keep out some of the water and not have water intrusion. But why I brought it up is the SolarEdge Nexus solution, our next gen battery, we have designed with up to 12 inches of flood resistance. So like, even though it is a floor mounted battery or a wall mounted battery, we are planning for those floods and those types of things. So great comment about floods and batteries. Okay. So I love generators and I love batteries, and I would love to talk about all these questions, and we'll get to it in the maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
But we're here for PCS, power control systems. That is the topic of today's episode.
So I think we should talk about what power control systems are, because it's a fairly wide field when you talk about power control systems. It's not just bus bar management.
Yeah. So let's define PCS. So PCS, like you said, is power control systems. And it is just a certification that we can give to equipment that controls a single or multiple energy sources, power sources. And it is a reactive control method. So it looks at kind of data or input or something from something else, from another system, and then changes its behavior based on what this value is. And so there's, like you said, there's multiple layers or levels to PCS. And the most common one we want to talk about is bus bar current management. You may hear us say BCM, stands for bus bar current management. We also have a limited export mode, a limited import mode, and then there's also batteries, how you charge your batteries. Are you charging it from DC energy or renewable energy, or charging it from AC energy, grid energy, and what those things look like? So there's, like an onion, there's multiple layers to PCS, or parfait,
or ogres.
So there's multiple layers to PCS, and we should always be specific about what level of PCS we're talking about. So there's so what do we really want to focus on today? And I think that's BCM.
We want to focus on bus bar management for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the North America, we have the National Electrical Code. And in the National Electrical Code, it defines you're allowed to put a solar breaker or backfeeding breaker on a main service entrance. That's your breaker box that lives in your house, right? So you're allowed to put a backfeeding breaker, and there was 5 methods that you're allowed to attach backfeeding devices to your main panel. And one of the methods has to follow what we call the 120% rule.
Yes, the old school way of doing things. There's a lot of math that goes along with it, but most folks just remembered, oh, it's a 100 amp service. Okay, I can put a 20 amp breaker and a 3800 on it. Or it's a 200 amp service. I can put a 40 amp breaker on there and a 7600 watt inverter.
That's right.
But there's a bunch of math that goes on behind it.
Yeah, the math is 1.2. It's easy. Yeah. So if you were to look at SolarEdge's previous SKU count, we had a 3.8, a 5.7, a 7.6, a 10, an 11.4. And all of those inverter sizes were based on rules and regulations. And the most common rule and regulation was this 120% rule. And just like you said, if you have a 100 amp service entrance with a 100 amp main breaker, you would take your bus bar rating, which is 100 amps, and multiply it by 1.2. That would give you 120. So you subtract 100 from 120, and that leaves you 20. And that is the largest backfeeding breaker you're allowed to have. So if you took 20 amps, 20 amp breaker, what's the largest continuous load you can put on a 20 amp breaker? Is 16 amps. And so that's what you take 16 times 240, you will get 3,800 watts. And that's why we have a 3.8 kilowatt inverter. So you're right. It is all very, very simple math. I mean, like elementary school maths, addition, subtraction, and multiplication.
Yeah.
So that is why we have all those inverter power classes. But there's other ways to get around the 120% rule. And so the most common, I think, was derating the main breaker.
Yep.
So if you made your main breaker smaller, you could increase your inverter breaker rating. And so a good example is the SolarEdge panels that were like 225 amp bus with a 200 amp main breaker. Means you could put not a 40, which is what most people would think, but you could put 65 amps on a breaker. And so that is so that is how we connected larger inverters to main service entrances. That was the old school method. And it really limited the inverter size that people could put on their house. There was also techniques like line side taps, where you could use a piercing tap connector or a renewable meter adapter. And like piercing tap connectors were determined to not follow any UL listings. And I think that has recently changed. There is now a UL test standard. You can test your piercing tap connector, and it has to have specific writing on the connector, the piercing tap connector, that indicates what it is, what it's listed to. And I saw at RE Plus, I think it was like an ILSCO makes one that is now UL listed to do that. But, you know, that to me is like crazy. You don't have to buy other equipment, a renewable meter adapter or a meter socket or whatever. You don't have to buy this other equipment. All you need is an inverter that can do busbar current management. So PCS, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Very nice. I remember on Imgur.com, there are a whole bunch of like electrician kind of posts where they like post horror shows. I saw one where a solar installer was saying, is this a UL listed line side tap? And it was literally like a screw that was driven into a conductor with more copper wrapped around the screw.
Oh no.
Almost like it was a wire nut type situation. It was one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen in my life.
How do you even do that? Like stand on a rubber mat? Like that sounds terrifying. Like I don't want to. No, I'm going to say no. That's bad.
No, that's a bad thing to do. Do not do that.
That is a bad.
Yes,
that is definitely not a good.
Okay.
All right. So, what is the next question?
So, let's see here. No, I am actually drinking beer this week. I am not drinking grass clippings or healthy food stuff this week. So I'm feeling mostly better. Still got a little bit of a lingering cough, but I'm fine. Thank you.
Oh, is that time for the beer check-in then?
Oh, it is time for the beer check-in.
All right.
So
What do you think?
it's a little different than when it was on tap.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit more sour right now, which I'm fine with.
interesting.
I'm not into sours so much, but it's just got a little bit of bite.
Okay,
It's really, really good. But again, very malty, very caramelly.
this tastes like, I'm gonna say like
Mhm.
as close. It's not a pumpkin beer, but it is as close to a pumpkin beer as you're gonna get.
Mm.
You know what? Maybe a better way of saying it is it's got a lot of cinnamon and allspice notes to it.
Mhm.
I'm going to say it is a chai of beers. It is really good. Caramel, a little bit of spice, very malty, fantastic beer. I'm
So on the whole, Dark Heart Brewing,
time of my
2
life.
thumbs up. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about why are we doing
PCS.
PCS?
Power control
Yeah.
systems.
The obvious reason to start with, most common reason, is I want to avoid a main panel upgrade, which is change orders, which is really, really expensive. It's depending on the utility. It's probably going to cause some type of chaos with your bid. Things are going to go way differently than you had originally expected.
Yeah.
It's just
Main panel upgrades. Like there's a lot of really cool technology out
Mhm.
there that will help modernize your main panel. Like
Mhm.
if you decide to go down that route, like Span is kind of a notable one.
Yep.
I saw a new company at RE Plus that had some pretty cool things. They were called like Cool Bridge, I think is what they were called. But Savant is another great one.
Yep.
Lumen. So there's a lot of cool things out there. And if you have to do a main panel upgrade, like yeah, get the new, get a modernized system that you have load control, that you have all these PCS functionalities in. But main panel upgrades are expensive. And I think in general, for most of North America, when somebody gets a main panel upgrade, it's like a $3,000 to $5,000 adder.
Yeah.
And that is a huge,
Mhm.
huge adder. Like if you're trying to put solar on your house because it's the right thing to do and you're trying to reduce your carbon footprint and your grid dependency and you're getting a battery backup system, a $5,000 adder is a pretty big hit to that. Just for electrical infrastructure.
Mhm.
So avoiding main panels is a huge one, but also you can install, like why you should use PCS is you can install larger PV systems and battery systems on your panel. So even if you're not using SolarEdge, like AC coupled is a great example. When you have a solar breaker and a battery breaker, those are both backfeeding devices, and they limited you to saving money because both of those things couldn't push energy at the same time. And so PCS really allows you to have more batteries and more solar on your electrical panel because you're measuring current on that bus bar and you're making sure that that bus bar is never overamped.
But any of those generation sources, whether it's the AC coupled battery, the inverter, those are going to have to be monitored with CTs. That's just like an extra set of CTs, possibly another meter
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah, so the AC coupled guys, like they usually have multiple CTs because they have to measure that stuff, right?
Mhm.
They have to measure the energy coming in and out of the bus bar at every point. So from the grid, from the solar, from the batteries. And so so you may need multiple CTs to do bus bar current management if you are using AC coupled. But SolarEdge is unique because we're DC coupled. And so now we don't need multiple sets of CTs because we're just an inverter output, our batteries on the DC side. And so you don't have to worry about grid energy going to that battery unless you allow it.
So you just got 2 CTs on your service entrance monitoring what's coming in and going out. You've got your inverter, which has got a production CT.
Yeah.
And based on that math, you can calculate how much is being consumed, how much is on the bus bar, and you'll never exceed that 200 amp rating or 100 amp rating on the bus bar.
Right. And then additionally, like one other thing is what we call nemtegrity.
Yeah.
Nemtegrity.
Integrity. Okay.
So what nemtegrity is there's a lot of utilities that have net metering agreements. And net metering just is an agreement with utility that gives you a value for the kilowatt hours that you send to the utility company. Interestingly enough, in Hawaii, California, Arizona, some parts of, I think, Illinois or Iowa, they have changed the rules where the kilowatt hours that you give to the utility are not the same value as the kilowatt hours you buy from the utility. They are a lot less. And so you want to keep your existing PV system at whatever your net metering agreement was. And then if you want to add on a system, that's what we call integrity. And PCS is a fantastic use for that application. Now, I'm going to be honest here. SolarEdge does not have a good solution for integrity. Then you should probably be looking at other people's equipment for that, but that will be my blanket statement without getting into too much detail as to why.
Mhm.
And if you have those questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. It's just too much for right here, right now. And shoot them over to night mode
At SolarEdge.com.
SolarEdge.com, and
Yep.
we can answer those questions for
Yeah,
you.
any questions that you got, if you want to send them in, we're taking questions there as well. If you don't want to like post online, I understand fully. Did have a question that came in. What about third-party inverters and SolarEdge?
Oh, yeah. Third-party inverters is a great question. So we still do busbar current management, and you only have to program the SolarEdge inverter for that. So SolarEdge has multiple layers of busbar current management. So let's just talk about single SolarEdge inverter. You just program PCS through the commissioning application that we call SolarEdge Go or SetApp, and you follow the step-by-step process, and you say I have a 200 amp main with a 200 amp bus bar rating, so 200, 200, and then we control everything. If you have multiple SolarEdge inverters with a backup interface, the system looks at those inverters as a single production, and we control them together. Now, to your question, or the question online from Night Mode, was what happens when you have a SolarEdge inverter and a third-party inverter? That does not have CTs on it. It is not measured. How do we account for that? And so we made it pretty easy. We realized that CTs on everything is a roadblock. It's a little more expensive. Getting the CT's orientation correct every single time is difficult and not always easy to do. And so what you can do is you program busbar current management, so 200, 200, and then you go into the advanced menu. And you can add a layer of what is your unmonitored production breaker size. So that could be a third-party inverter. And you can say, oh, this third-party inverter is a 40 amp breaker. And you take that 40 and you subtract it from the 200 amp main breaker rating. And you can say, okay, I want you to pretend that my main breaker is now a 160. And this is what I'm going to control you to, so 160 amps. And so that is how you do a third-party inverter with PCS, busbar current management with SolarEdge. So no additional CTs. And there's a very important note that if any of those CTs start to fail or something happens and the CT is not working, we fail in the safe mode where if a CT is lost or whatever, we revert to the 120% rule.
Yeah.
Or in that case, if there was a third-party unmonitored inverter, we'd revert to zero because we have no idea what that third-party inverter is doing, and we can't produce any energy because we don't know what that third party is doing. And so we fail in the safe mode.
Nice.
Yeah.
Had a question come in about generator support. Now, obviously, you've got a generator running. You're not running on grid. You're going to have some means of disconnection from the grid, so you're not islanding or pushing back power to the grid, trying to supply power to your entire street, or God forbid, hurt somebody that's trying to correct issues on the line. So you're going to have a backup interface. So will generator support work with PCS? And what are we looking at as far as like backup systems and the backup interface?
Yeah, sure. So
PCS.
Right now for SolarEdge in North America, we utilize the backup interface. And the backup interface is our microgrid interconnection device.
Yeah.
And I think we did an episode on generator support. So feel free to, I forget which episode number it was, but feel free to look in our playlist. But we can auto start stop generators. We still do not operate generators at the same time as the PV system.
Yeah.
So there's no way to charge the batteries from generators yet. We're working on that feature. It is a feature request. We just don't have it out yet. So does PCS work with generators? The answer is no.
Yeah. It should be said, though, that if like your generator is running, your inverter is still doing work. If there's PV available, it's charging up the batteries while the generator is running. And as soon as those batteries get enough power, I believe it's what, 80%?
80%.
Then what it's going to do is if you're in automatic mode, it's going to switch off the generator and switch you back over to PV and battery once you've got a certain level of energy. Multiple inverters behind the same backup interface. Will that work with PCS?
Yeah, so that's a new feature in 4.23. We
Okay.
can do multiple inverters as long as there's a backup interface. So that was a key distinction for us because we realized more commonly there's multiple inverters with a backup interface, and that's when you're going to really want to do PCS. Interestingly enough, we also updated our CT calibration. So before, I think in one of your videos that you did with Evan, we said that there's no way to modify the CT length.
Yeah.
So now you can do on-site CT calibration. So you can shorten or lengthen, change the CT length, and you can run a new calibration on-site.
Yeah.
So
I don't advise to shorten CT leads, but extending is good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just something that's been drilled into me by different CT manufacturers. Never mess with the leads because they're calibrated based on that. So it's just like I've got like this little boogeyman sitting on my shoulder saying, don't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to extend CTs really does open up the number of installs that you can do. And the calibration process, super easy. You just basically just go in there and say, calibrate.
Yeah.
And it just does it automatically.
That's awesome.
So all it's doing is just checking the resistance.
Yeah. Impedance.
It's
checking the impedance of the CT wire to determine. So we basically had to teach our meter a new trick, right? So we had to teach our meter how to detect if a CT is lost or damaged. And it could be a rodent chewing on the wires. It could be something burning through the CT wires. It could be, oh, you just didn't wire it in correctly, or the clamp isn't working, or whatever. So if that CT fails for whatever reason it does, we have to be able to detect that and then again fail to the safe mode.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Older home hub inverters required an add-on meter for PCS. Is that true for an older buoy?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So any buoy that has a backup interface, thank you, that has a -01 or -02 in the part number, they are the standard meter, not PCS certified. So we have PCS upgrade kits, and you can get a PCS upgrade kit. If your backup interface has a -03, we put the PCS meter in from the factory. And those older home hub inverters, same thing. If it was made within the last like 2 years or so, maybe a little less, it's got a PCS meter installed from the factory. But I can't control inventory from our distributors and what their inventory practices are. So if you got a really old inverter that was made, a couple years ago, you may need to get that PCS upgrade kit, but we do have that available.
Absolutely. And honestly, there's a video on YouTube on how to install it. It takes no more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's super fast.
Yeah.
That was a great question. Thank you, Andy.
Let's see here. Hardware requirements. So obviously you're going to need correct inverter and firmware. You're going to need that PCS enabled meter, and you're going to need CTs.
That's correct.
And again, only the SolarEdge Slim CTs are compatible with this. There's no compatibility list for alternate CTs. You have to use those specifically.
CTs. Yeah, that's right. Which is, a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Those SolarEdge CTs are fantastic. You can get them into a lot of tight spaces because they're small and easy to install. But you have to use SolarEdge CTs. And I think it's worth noting that when you go to the CEC website, the California Energy Commission, they list your CEC PCS certification based on the inverter, when really it's a meter and CT listing. So that's how we list it on the CEC website. We also list it with the backup interface on the CEC website. And we had to do that to meet kind of like how they show product. But really it comes down to the meter and the CTs. It's just kind of an interesting side note.
Yeah. Let's see here. So specifically, if I wanted to find more information on PCS and code compliance, what should I be looking at? Like UL 1741?
Yeah, UL 1741 SRD. So like 2109 or 209.1. We'll put the link or the section in, I think, in the comments below, or description, the description when we post it. But NEC 705.13 is a great code reference for PCS and power control systems. kind of like the different functions they're in and how to do that. So those are the two biggest ones. The other UL 3141 is important to note. So UL 3141 is the new PCS standard, but 1741 CRD was codified into UL 3141. And so it's really kind of looking at the same thing. But those are the biggest UL standards you should be reading to make sure that you have PCS certification.
Next question, is PCS on by default? And the answer is no. You actually have to go through and turn it on. Excuse me. There's a whole process that you have to go through just to certify that you have done all the work appropriately, that you installed CTs. I think my favorite part of setting up PCS is the CT test itself. CTs, obviously one of the larger installation mistakes. It's very easy to install them backwards or accidentally install them on the wrong conductors. Things like that happen all the time. So what that PCS test does is it will go through, test your meter, give you several steps to do, wearing proper PPE, mind you, and you'll go through and you'll flip CTs, you'll set them, you'll disconnect them, you'll put them on conductors just to make sure everything is set correctly. It's about maybe a 5-minute process to go through the test, but that 5-minute process will save you potential truck rolls later and make sure that everything is fully dialed in and ready to go. So really, really love that CT test. I don't know if that CT test is available under the meter menu yet, but we had talked about building that CT test into just the regular installation.
Absolutely.
We'll have to double check on that.
I think, I'm pretty sure it is there. The CT calibration where we reverse the polarity. I'm pretty sure it's there. I think that was in 4.23.
Yeah.
So if you upgrade your inverter firmware using setup, you should have capabilities of that. I had an interesting question from a colleague that was asking me about PCS. And there's a lot of utility grid requirements. And we call that the country code manager or grid code manager, where California has California Rule 21, which has very specific frequency watt control settings, and then also reactive power priority. And so that is one grid code among many. NYSERDA has some different grid code settings. And so the question to me was, does the grid code override PCS, or does PCS override the grid code?
That's a good question.
And as you distill the information, you think about who has the chain of command. So first we look at the National Electrical Code, and that's for really any field wiring or field assembly. Then we look to UL, and the only people that are allowed to overwrite UL is the utility, is the grid. And so my response was, well, the grid is the end all be all, and the grid should be able to override what your PCS control is. And the example they gave me was, in this utility, sometimes they want to be able to use frequency watt control to send excess energy to the batteries and charge the batteries when the grid is saturated. And that's a great example. And so if your batteries are being told to specifically charge from the grid by the utility, you should be able to override your PCS function that says, no, I'm not allowed to charge from the grid, because the utility is telling you to charge from the grid. And so the question then becomes, the ITC says, for you to take your tax credit, you're not allowed to charge from the grid and then sell that energy back to the grid. And so what do you do? And my answer is, well, what SolarEdge does is whenever we grid charge, we self-consume that energy first. And so if you charge from the grid, that's fine. You're allowed to charge from the grid no matter what. But when you use that energy, you're not allowed to sell it to the grid. So you have to consume that battery energy in your home. And so we power your home with that battery energy first. And then once that's depleted, then we can sell energy back to the utility company. So it's a kind of an interesting dance that you have to do between PCS, grid codes and requirements, and now the federal government and the income tax credit.
And again, if you have questions and want to do like a deep dive with us, nightmode@solaredge.com.
Yeah, so I think that kind of brings us to the end. We've been talking for 45 minutes. And
I'm sorry.
you're starting to lose your voice.
I got the black lung, Paul. I do want to say before we go, with the new single skew inverters, it's going to require you to move over to SolarEdge Go from SetApp to do installs. There is one really, really big advantage to doing that. Is like once you go through the commissioning process and go through the commissioning wizard, it's just like a fully guided process that'll walk you through the entire thing. But at the very end, it'll generate a report that you can share with your TPO, you can share with your grid, you can share with your utility operator for compliance, your inspectors.
Like Luma is a good example. They want a report of what the system is commissioned
It'll
at.
actually go through, say what the commission's set at. It will actually give you all of your grid connectivity settings as well at the very end. So really, really helpful. You can basically just like whenever you're done commissioning, export it as a JPEG and then text it over to whoever your person in compliance is or whoever's doing your paperwork to finalize everything. Really, really convenient and a huge lifesaver. So make sure that if you haven't already, you're installing SolarEdge Go. That's going to be where we are moving to for all commissioning kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's going to have a whole bunch of different advantages. Like you'll be able to push firmware updates remotely, do a lot of things that you couldn't do with SetApp, including like remote setup. So you can remote control the inverter. So you can connect to an inverter, maybe change a few settings rather than rolling a truck.
Yeah, without even going to site. So SolarEdge Go is definitely the way to go.
Oh, God. Oh, that was almost as bad as my pumpkin jokes. Let's see here. Thanks for your time, guys. Appreciate you answering my questions. App says exported. Okay. I'll read that and I'll reach out to you later, Mark, after this. Just want to say thank you to each and every one of you who joined us today. Had a great time hanging out with you. Again, episodes are going to be in the playlist for night mode. Just go over to podcast and you can see the full list of playlists. And I'll get those up on the Spotifys and the iHeartRadios and
iTunes,
all the iTunes and the Audibles and all
Google
those things.
Podcasts.
Here in the very near future, we're just getting settled back from RA Plus and getting a bunch of beta tests done. So things are kind of quieting down a little bit for me. So
but then we're going to change studios.
Oh yeah, then we're going to move to a new studio. So, we'll do what we can. I believe next time on the 16th, we are hoping to bring in a guest so that we can talk about roofing and solar.
That's right.
And how these two kind of go together. My dad, for years and years and years, worked in commercial roofing in sales. And it was amazing the number of commercial roofers that were getting into the solar business. So I believe we have a guest lined up that we're going to see if we can bring in on the 16th. Have our first official guest and learn everything that we can from them about where roofing and solar kind of merge together. Because, I mean, it's a great way to turn an already profitable business even more profitable. So
I really like this idea. And also, I wonder if we're going to tailor that conversation to how best to do a roofing upgrade in conjunction with your solar system. So like if you need a re-roof on your house, like when's the best time to do it and how to do it. And then additionally, like what type of roofing material works best with solar systems. And so those are, I think, really cool kind of topics of conversation.
I've got a lot of really good questions about it as well.
Oh man, I'm really excited. Okay, cool. So
all right,
2 weeks, we'll see you there.
Yep. So same time, Thursday. That'll be 3 p.m.
Pacific.
Eastern. Sorry, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I swear I'm going to get that right one of these days. Okay, so we will see you in a couple of weeks. And again, feel free to email us your installs or your questions, nightmode@solaredge.com. We'll be happy to show off your work. In the meantime, stay sunny.
Stay optimized.
Cheers.
Cheers.